The first thing you learn about happy marriages is that they're mostly held together by routines, shared passwords, and a mutual agreement not to overanalyze the tone someone uses when they say, "I'm just going to the kitchen for a minute." We had all three. At least, I thought we did. That night started like every other neighborhood gathering: cheap fairy lights, expensive opinions, and the smell of grilled meat that always makes men stand around like they've been personally called to serve in a sacred ritual. Our living room was full. People laughed too loud. Someone had hijacked my playlist and turned it into a vibes thing. My wife, Amanda, floated through it all like she was born to host. Hair done, dress that said casual but also said, "I can ruin your self-esteem with one sentence and still smile while I do it." She kept refilling drinks, checking on people, touching shoulders, laughing at jokes that weren't funny. And I'll be fair, she looked incredible. The kind of incredible that makes a man proud and slightly nervous at the same time. Like owning a sports car you can't afford to fix. I was in the kitchen, doing the responsible husband thing, meaning I was refilling the ice bowl and silently judging everyone's glassware choices, when I heard it. Not from the kitchen, from the hallway. At first, it was just giggling. That soft, conspiratorial kind of laughter women do when there's a secret, and the secret has teeth. I paused with the ice scoop in my hand, because my brain did that thing where it goes, "You don't need to hear this." And my body goes, "Actually, yes, we do." Amanda's voice was the clearest, bright, lazy, amused. "Relax," she said. "We were just playing." There was an explosion of laughter. The kind that doesn't match the sentence. People don't laugh like that when someone says, "just playing," unless the playing involved something you can't say at dinner. A different voice cut through, sharp, a little slurred, and a lot more honest than it meant to be. "You're the one who took it too far." The laughter changed after that. Less bubbly, more messy. Like someone had thrown a rock into the punch bowl. My hand froze over the ice. I stood there, staring at the freezer like it had suddenly started giving legal advice. We. Who is we? And why does too far sound like a boundary, not a joke? I waited, listening, because I'm not an idiot, and also because I'm absolutely an idiot when it comes to curiosity. Amanda laughed again, but this time it was smaller, controlled. "Oh my God, you're dramatic," she said. Nothing happened. Another voice chimed in. Emily, I thought, one of her closest friends, the one who always smelled like expensive shampoo and moral flexibility. "Yeah," Emily said, "but you can't act surprised when—" Amanda cut her off. "Relax, it's fine." There was a pause. Then someone whispered something I didn't catch. More laughter. My pulse ticked up like a car engine trying to start in winter. I could have stayed hidden. I could have played it cool, like one of those men in movies who finds out his life is a lie and then calmly pours whiskey while staring into the middle distance. I'm not built like that. I stepped out of the kitchen and walked into the hallway, ice bowl in my hands like a peace offering. The second they saw me, the entire group snapped into a completely different universe. Smiles arranged themselves. Faces softened, shoulders straightened. It was like watching people switch tabs on a laptop. Amanda's eyes met mine, just for a moment. There was nothing obvious there. No guilt, no panic, just a flicker. "What's up?" she asked, too casual. I lifted the bowl. "Ice, so we don't have to drink warm regret." They laughed. The safe kind of laughter. The public laughter. Emily's cheeks were a little pink. Another friend, Sophie, looked at her phone like it had suddenly received an emergency alert. "Everything okay?" I asked. I kept my tone light, friendly, like I wasn't mentally replaying "took it too far" on loop. Amanda stepped closer and kissed my cheek. Quick, practiced, a perfect little gesture for anyone watching. "Everything's perfect," she said. Then she looked at the others and clapped her hands once like she was dismissing a meeting. "All right, go mingle. Stop cornering me." The group broke apart fast, too fast. As they drifted away, Amanda's hand slid into mine. Her fingers were warm, confident. "Hey, she murmured. Don't make a weird face. I'm not making a weird face. You are, she said. You get this look when you're thinking too hard. That's just my face, I said. It's thinking by default. She smiled, and for a second I almost let it go. Almost. Then my brain, which apparently hates peace, offered me the replay again. Relax. We were just playing. You guys talking about something fun? I asked. Amanda's smile didn't change, but her eyes did. A fraction, like a camera lens refocusing. Just girl stuff, she said. Girl stuff, I repeated. The most dangerous category of stuff. She rolled her eyes. Don't start. I'm not starting. I'm gently circling the topic. She leaned in, voice low, like we were sharing a secret instead of me interrogating my own marriage. Relax, she said softly. We were just playing. There it was again, word for word, same rhythm, like she'd rehearsed it. My jaw tightened, but I kept my tone casual. Because I'm not a man who flips tables. I'm a man who remembers where the legs are weak and waits until the right moment. Playing what? I asked. Amanda blinked. What? What game? I said, smiling as if I'd just made a joke. Requires multiple adults to say, nothing happened immediately after laughing? She gave a short laugh. You're being paranoid. I'm being observant, I corrected. Paranoid men make charts. I'm not there yet. She squeezed my hand, a little harder this time, a warning disguised as affection. Come on, she said brightly, pulling me toward the living room. Let's enjoy the party. Enjoy. Sure. I followed her, because I wasn't about to argue in front of people. I'm not weak, I'm disciplined. Also, I wanted to watch. Because once a sentence like that lands in your brain, it doesn't just sit there. It starts rearranging furniture. Out in the living room, I saw him. Daniel, the neighbor. 30-something, clean haircut. That effortless, friendly guy vibe that makes people trust him with their packages and their spouses. He was standing near the couch, holding a beer like he'd been born with it in his hand, laughing with two other guys. And Amanda, my Amanda, walked straight past me and said something to him. He grinned instantly, like a switch flipped. She laughed. He laughed. They leaned closer. Not enough to be blatant, but enough to be familiar. I watched them for a second, my face calm, my stomach doing that slow, ugly sink. Then Daniel looked up and caught me watching. And here's the thing. Innocent people either nod politely or look away. Daniel held my gaze for half a beat too long. Then he lifted his beer in a little salute. Like we shared something. I walked over because, again, I'm not a man who sits in silence and hopes reality gets bored and leaves. I slid in beside Amanda and put my arm around her waist. Not possessive, just present, like a reminder written in muscle. Daniel, I said, friendly as a knife wrapped in velvet. Enjoying yourself? He smiled wide. Great party, man. You guys always do it right. Amanda elbowed me lightly. He helped us with the lights earlier. Saved us. Did he? I said, still smiling. Daniel shrugged. No big deal. Amanda looked up at him with this warm little grateful expression that I suddenly hated. Not because gratitude is bad, but because it felt practiced. And then, like my life needed comedic timing, Emily walked up behind us, saw me, and froze. Actually froze. Her eyes flicked from me to Amanda, then to Daniel, like she'd walked into the wrong room during the wrong scene. Hey, she said too loudly. Wow, everyone's here. Amanda laughed. Emily, you okay? Emily's smile was nervous. Yeah, great. Totally. Just hot in here. I raised my eyebrows. You look like you've seen a ghost. Emily swallowed. No, I just... She cut herself off, and her eyes met mine for a second. There was something there, not guilt exactly. Amanda touched Emily's arm. Go drink water. Emily nodded fast and escaped. I turned back to my wife. Amanda was still smiling, but her fingers were tapping lightly against my side, a tiny, impatient rhythm. "Relax," she murmured, "just for me. We're just playing." I stared at her for a long second, then smiled back. "Cool," I said. "I love games." And right then I made a decision. I wasn't going to explode. I wasn't going to beg. I wasn't going to ask for reassurance like a boy asking if he's still invited to the birthday party. I was going to watch, and I was going to learn what the rules were. Because whatever game they were playing, I was done being the only person in the room without the instructions. The party kept going, but my brain had quietly left the building. I did the social husband routine: smile, nod, refill drinks, laugh at jokes that were clearly written by a committee of exhausted men, while my eyes kept sliding back to Amanda and Daniel like they were a suspicious commercial break I couldn't skip. Amanda wasn't hanging off him. She wasn't whispering into his ear. Nothing you could point to and say, "Aha, got you." And every time I moved closer, the energy shifted. Not panic, just a small recalibration, like two people who knew where the line was and were enjoying the fact that I didn't. At one point, Daniel said something, and Amanda laughed so genuinely that she threw her head back. It was the kind of laugh she usually saved for me when I did something stupid in the kitchen or tried to carry too many grocery bags like I was training for an Olympic event. I felt my jaw tighten. Then I did what any mature, emotionally stable adult man would do. I walked over and joined the conversation like a friendly hurricane. "What did I miss?" I asked, slipping in beside Amanda. Daniel turned with that same polished smile. "Just talking about how Daniel's just a funny guy," Amanda said, and she said it like it was a slogan. I looked at her. "He is? Should we call the Comedy Council and register him?" Amanda gave me a look that said, "Don't." Daniel chuckled. "Your wife's hilarious." "My wife's dangerous," I said. Amanda's smile twitched. "Oh my God." I patted Daniel's shoulder like we were buddies. "Anyway, I'm going to steal my wife for a second." Amanda blinked. "Why?" "Because I'm your husband," I said. "I like to remind the neighborhood I exist." I guided her toward the kitchen with just enough force to be playful and just enough intention to be unmistakable. As soon as we were out of earshot, she pulled her hand away. "What's wrong with you?" she hissed. "What's wrong with me?" I repeated. "Nothing. Why?" "You're acting weird." "I'm acting present," I said. "There's a difference." Amanda crossed her arms. "He's our neighbor. We're being friendly." "Friendly," I echoed. "Is that what we're calling it?" Her eyes narrowed. "What are you implying?" I leaned against the counter, calm, almost amused. "I'm implying you've said, 'Relax, we're just playing twice tonight,'" I said. "And now I'm curious what game needs a disclaimer." Amanda's lips parted like she was about to say something sharp. Then she stopped herself. She took a breath and put on the soft voice, the one that makes men feel unreasonable. "You're overthinking," she said. "It's nothing." "You know what's funny about nothing?" I said. "It always shows up right before everything." Amanda rolled her eyes. "You're impossible." "No," I said. "I'm attentive. I pay attention when my wife and her friends start sounding suspicious for no obvious reason." She stared at me for a second, then reached out and smoothed my shirt like she was fixing a wrinkle, not trying to reset the mood. "Stop," she said quietly. "Not tonight." There it was again. Not an answer, a command. I nodded like I agreed. "Sure," I said. "Not tonight." And I meant it. Because tonight wasn't for explosions. Tonight was for observation. The party ended the way all parties end. People hugging too long, promising to do this again soon, and leaving with leftovers like they were raiding a small kingdom. Daniel lingered near the door. His wife, Claire, was with him, smiling and polite, looking like a woman who had no idea she was living next to a soap opera. "Thanks again," Amanda said to them. "We should do dinner soon." Daniel's eyes flicked to Amanda. "Anytime." I stepped forward and shook Daniel's hand. Firm, clean, smile in place. Good seeing you, I said. He gripped back. You too, man. Again, that half beat too long. That faint little glint in his eyes. And then he said it, like he couldn't help himself. Night, Amanda. Not you guys. Not both of you. Just her name. I smiled wider. Night, Daniel. When the door finally shut, the house went quiet in that exhausted way. Empty cups, crumbs on the counter, the smell of wine and smoke still clinging to the air. Amanda started collecting plates, humming like nothing had happened. I helped, because I'm not a guy who punishes people with silence. I punish with precision. We cleaned in tense cooperation. At the sink, she said, "You were rude tonight." I was territorial, I corrected. You were insecure. I laughed once. Insecure men pretend not to notice. I noticed. Amanda snapped a dish into the drying rack harder than necessary. I don't know what you want from me, she said. I want you to answer a simple question, I replied. She looked at me. What question? What game? I said. Are you playing? Her eyes flashed. I told you nothing, it was just, don't, I said, holding up a finger. Don't you dare say that line again. Amanda froze. I leaned closer, voice calm but hard. Relax, we're just playing is not a get-out-of-jail-free card, I said. It's not cute, it's not comforting. It sounds like something people say right before a marriage dies quietly. Amanda swallowed. For a moment she looked unsure, like the mask had slipped and she didn't know which face to put on. Then she straightened. It was a stupid joke, she said. With the girls, that's all. I studied her. A joke about what? She hesitated. Just a fraction. Then, nothing. I nodded. Okay, I said. Nothing. She exhaled, relieved, like she'd passed some test. That relief told me everything. We went to bed like normal people. She kissed my cheek, turned off the lamp, rolled onto her side. I lay there staring at the ceiling, listening to her breathing settle. And the longer I lay there, the more my memory started doing that cruel little slideshow thing. Moments from the past few months suddenly lit differently. Amanda standing in the driveway talking to Daniel, laughing too loudly. Amanda running into him on a walk in the afternoon when she was supposedly going to the pharmacy. Amanda coming home oddly cheerful after taking out the trash. At the time, I chalked it up to neighborhood friendliness. Now, it looked like choreography. The next morning, I woke up early. Amanda was already up, wearing workout clothes, hair pulled back, looking annoyingly fresh. I'm going for a quick run, she said. At 7, I asked, who are you, a motivational poster? She smiled. I've been running in the mornings. Since when? A few weeks, she said, casual. A few weeks. Sure. She kissed me lightly and left. And I did something I'm not proud of, except I am proud because I'd rather be right than noble. I checked the front window. Amanda jogged down the sidewalk. And then, 30 seconds later, Daniel stepped out of his house. In workout clothes. I watched them disappear down the street like two people who'd rehearsed it. I stood there in my kitchen, coffee in hand, and smiled to myself. Oh, I muttered. So that's the game. I didn't storm out. I didn't do anything dramatic. Later that day, I drove to the hardware store for things we didn't urgently need. Because when a man is stressed, he either buys tools or starts fights. I was in the aisle pretending to compare screws like my entire reality wasn't wobbling when I ran into Emily. She was holding a basket with 2 items, almond milk and guilt. She spotted me and did that quick, fake smile that people do when they're trying to look normal while their soul is sprinting. Oh, hey, she said. Hi? Emily, I said, friendly. Buying milk? She laughed too fast. Yeah, healthy. You know, trying. I nodded. How's your trying? She swallowed. Her eyes darted behind me like she expected Amanda to appear out of the shelving like a villain in a cheap thriller. Everything good? I asked. Emily's fingers tightened around the basket handle. Yeah, she said. Totally. Then she lowered her voice without meaning to, as if the words had weight. I thought she already told you about the game. Her face went pale the second she said it. I didn't blink. I didn't react. I didn't even inhale noticeably. I just smiled like a man who definitely already knew. Oh, I said, casual. That game. Emily's eyes widened. She did tell you? Of course, I lied smoothly. I'm not the type of husband who's out of the loop. Emily looked relieved and terrified at the same time, which is a fantastic expression if you're collecting evidence. Right, she said quickly. Okay, good, great. Then, yeah, okay. She started to back away. I tilted my head. You seem nervous. Emily shook her head too hard. No, I have to go. Sure, I said. Tell Amanda I said hi. Okay, she whispered and hurried off. I stood there between the screws and nails, watching her disappear, and I felt something settle in my chest. Clarity. Amanda wasn't just being friendly, and whatever this game was, it wasn't harmless. That night, Amanda came home, tossed her keys into the bowl, and said, "Guess who I saw today?" I raised an eyebrow. "If you say Daniel, I'm going to start charging rent." She laughed. "No, Emily." My eyes stayed on hers. "Oh yeah?" Amanda shrugged, too casual. "She said she ran into you at the hardware store." I smiled. "Did she?" Amanda walked closer. "She said you were intense." "I'm charming," I corrected. Amanda watched me for a second, like she was trying to decide whether I knew something. Then she smiled and said it. Soft, playful, almost affectionate. "Relax." I stared at her. She started to add the rest. I cut her off with a gentle, dangerous smile. "Don't," I said quietly. "That line is getting expensive." Her smile faltered. Just a crack. And in that crack, I saw it again. That flicker. The moment she realized I wasn't just suspicious. Amanda didn't say anything for a few seconds. Not because she didn't have a response. Amanda always had a response. She could win arguments about things that didn't even exist yet. No, this was different. She was studying me. You ever see someone trying to decide if you're bluffing? That quiet calculation behind the eyes? That was the look. Then she smiled again, easy and smooth. "You're being dramatic," she said. "Of course I am," I replied. "Drama is the spice of suburban life. Without it, we're just people comparing lawn equipment." Amanda laughed softly, but the tension stayed in the room like humidity. She walked past me into the kitchen and opened the fridge. "You want something to eat?" she asked. "Depends," I said. "Is this before or after the mysterious game explanation?" She didn't turn around. "What game?" I leaned against the counter again. "The one Emily assumed you told me about." That got her attention. Amanda slowly closed the fridge and looked at me. "What exactly did Emily say?" I shrugged. "She said she thought you already told me about the game." Amanda's face stayed calm, but her fingers tapped the counter once. A small nervous habit she thought no one noticed. I noticed. "So?" she said. "So," I repeated. "Now I'm curious." Amanda tilted her head slightly. "You're making this bigger than it is." "Possibly," I said. "But you could solve that by explaining it." Then she sighed. The sigh of someone deciding the easiest lie to maintain. "It's nothing," she said. "Just a dumb thing the girls were joking about." "What kind of dumb thing?" Amanda grabbed a bottle of water and twisted the cap open. "You know," she said casually, "like those stupid challenges people make up." "What kind of challenge?" She took a sip before answering. "Just flirting with someone, seeing if you still have it." I watched her carefully. "And Daniel is the lucky volunteer?" Amanda rolled her eyes immediately. "Oh my God, no." "Good," I said, "because that would be awkward." "Why?" "Because he seems very enthusiastic about the challenge." Amanda shook her head. "You're reading way too much into normal interactions." Maybe, I said, but you're also avoiding the actual explanation. She leaned on the counter now, arms crossed. It was literally just a stupid joke. Emily exaggerated. End of story. Uh-huh. You don't believe me. I believe, I said calmly, that something exists which you're calling nothing. Amanda stared at me. Then she did something interesting. She stepped closer. Her voice softened. You know what I think? She said. What? I think you're bored. Bored? You've been working too much. You're looking for problems. I smiled slowly. You're telling me my wife secretly participating in flirtation challenges with the neighbor is me being bored? I didn't say that. You implied it. Amanda exhaled through her nose. You're twisting things. No, I said. I'm following them. Another long pause. Then she shook her head and grabbed the water bottle. This conversation is stupid. She walked past me toward the living room. Later that night, Amanda went to take a shower. I sat on the couch with my laptop, pretending to read emails while actually replaying the entire day like a courtroom drama in my head. Game, flirting challenge, neighbor, morning runs, Emily's panic. None of that screamed nothing, but it also didn't prove anything. And I'm not a guy who throws accusations around without ammunition. Amanda came back into the living room wearing one of my old t-shirts. Still working? She asked. Pretending to, I said. She sat beside me. For a moment, everything felt almost normal. Then her phone buzzed on the coffee table. Amanda glanced at it quickly. Too quickly. She grabbed it and flipped it over. Classic. I didn't even look at the screen. I just said casually, Daniel? Amanda froze. Only for a fraction of a second. But again, I'm attentive. No, she said. Good, I replied. She frowned slightly. Why would you assume that? Because it annoys you. She shook her head and stood up. I'm going to bed. She walked down the hallway without another word. I waited. 5 minutes. Then 10. Then I stood up quietly and walked past the bedroom. The door was half open. Amanda was in bed, lights off, phone glowing in the dark. Her thumbs were moving quickly, typing. I didn't step inside. I just leaned against the wall and watched the faint reflection of the screen light on her face. She smiled. The kind of smile people don't perform. They experience it. My chest tightened slightly. I went back to the living room and sat down. A few seconds later, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. One message. I opened it. The text said, You're starting to notice, aren't you? I stared at the screen. No name, no context, just that sentence. A moment later, another message arrived. You should ask her about the rules. My eyebrows slowly rose. Well, that was new, I typed back. Who is this? Someone who thinks the game has gone far enough. I leaned back on the couch, staring at the message. I smiled. Because whatever Amanda and her friends had started, someone inside their little circle was already getting nervous. And nervous people make mistakes. I typed one more reply. What game? The typing bubbles appeared almost instantly. Then the answer came. The one where your wife tries to make Daniel fall for her. I let out a slow breath. Not just flirting, not just jokes. A full-blown little social experiment. I typed back. And who wins? The reply came after a short pause. The woman who goes the furthest without getting caught. I typed again. Define furthest. 3 dots appeared. Different stages. Explain. A pause. Then the messages started coming. Stage 1, get the guy interested. Stage 2, make him flirt first. Stage 3, late night texting. Stage 4, he asks to meet alone. Stage 5, he's ready to risk his relationship. I whistled quietly. That wasn't flirting. That was a marketing funnel. I typed, risked the relationship? One of the rules is that the target must be occupied. And at what stage is Amanda? She's already past stage 3. I looked down the hallway toward the bedroom. The door was still glowing faintly with Amanda's phone light. Then I looked back at the message, and I chuckled quietly. Because if there was one thing Amanda and her friends clearly hadn't planned for, it was the possibility that the husband they were trying to fool wasn't an idiot. And if they were playing a game, fine. But I've always preferred games where the rules are clear, and where the other side doesn't realize I've already started playing too. The next morning, I didn't bring it up. Not because I was afraid. Because information is like good whiskey. You don't waste it by drinking too fast. Amanda came into the kitchen wearing those same running clothes. "Morning," she said. "Morning." She poured coffee and leaned against the counter. "You seem calmer today." "I slept," I said. "Good." She studied me for a second. "You're not still obsessing about that stupid joke, are you?" I smiled. "Which one?" "You know which one. The mysterious game nobody can explain?" Amanda sighed. "It's literally nothing." "Then it should be very easy to explain." She didn't answer. Instead, she grabbed her coffee and walked toward the back door. "I'm going for my run." She opened the door, and right on cue, Daniel stepped outside his house. Perfect timing. Over the next few days, I stopped confronting Amanda. That surprised her. She even mentioned it once. "You're very quiet lately," she said one evening. "I'm observing." "That sounds ominous." "It should." She laughed, but there was a flicker of tension behind it now. Because when a man stops asking questions, it usually means he already has answers. And I did. More than she realized. That evening, Amanda was sitting on the couch texting again. Private smile. Same one. I sat across from her. "Quick question," I said. She looked up. "What? How far does the game go?" Amanda's fingers froze on the phone. The smile disappeared. "What game?" "The one where you try to make Daniel fall for you." Silence. Her face drained of color so fast it was almost impressive. "Where did you hear that?" she asked quietly. I shrugged. "Your fan club isn't as discreet as you think." Amanda stared at me. For a moment she looked genuinely shocked, then defensive. "It's not what you think." She stood up. "It was a stupid challenge." "Uh-huh. We were just messing around." "Sure. There was never supposed to be anything real." I nodded slowly. "Then why?" I asked calmly. "Are you still playing?" Amanda opened her mouth, and for the first time since this whole thing started, she didn't have an answer. And that silence told me something important. The game had rules, but emotions didn't. And somewhere between stage 3 and stage 4, my wife had forgotten that. I stood up. "Well," I said lightly, "good luck winning." Amanda blinked. "What?" I smiled at her. "You're clearly very invested." Then I walked past her toward the hallway. "Oh," I added casually, "one more thing." She turned. "What?" "If Daniel asks you to meet alone," I paused. "That's stage 4, right?" Amanda went completely still. And in that moment, I knew 2 things for sure. First, I had just confirmed everything. Second, whatever she thought this game was, it was about to become a lot less fun, because I wasn't just the husband anymore. Now I was a player. The house stayed quiet after that conversation. Not peaceful quiet. The kind of quiet where 2 people move around the same space pretending the floor isn't slowly cracking under their feet. Amanda didn't bring it up again that night. Neither did I. And that was new. Because normally Amanda hated unresolved tension. She'd push, argue, explain, twist things around until the story made sense again. But this time, she watched me. Like she was trying to understand what I knew and how much damage had already been done. Over the next week, I didn't yell, didn't accuse. I simply paid attention. Amanda kept running with Daniel. The texting continued. One evening, I saw something interesting from the kitchen window. Daniel standing near the fence. Amanda outside with him. Close conversation. Low voices. And then Daniel said something I couldn't hear. Amanda laughed softly. Not the big public laugh, the quiet one, the personal one. And that was when I decided something. If Amanda and her friends liked games so much, I'd give them a proper ending. So I waited. One more week. Then I told Amanda we should have dinner. Just us? She asked cautiously. No, I said. Invite your friends. Why? Because it's been a while. She studied my face carefully. You're acting strange. I'm being social. That made her suspicious. Which was fine. Suspicion without proof is just anxiety, and anxiety makes people sloppy. 2 nights later, the house was full again. Emily came, Sophie came, 2 other friends, and of course Daniel and his wife Claire. Claire looked completely relaxed. Poor woman. Everyone had wine, food, small talk, and the strange electric tension of people who felt something in the air but couldn't identify it yet. Amanda kept glancing at me across the table, trying to read my mood, trying to figure out what I was doing. I was calm, very calm, which made her even more nervous. Dinner went smoothly. People laughed, stories were told, wine bottles emptied, and then, right when dessert plates were cleared, I stood up. Before everyone leaves, I said casually, I actually wanted to say something. The table quieted. Amanda's eyes narrowed. I picked up my glass. I just wanted to congratulate someone. A few confused smiles appeared. Congratulations? Sophie asked. Yes, I said. I turned slightly toward Amanda. You. The room got quieter. Amanda blinked. For what? She asked slowly. I smiled. For winning. Emily closed her eyes. Daniel shifted in his chair. Amanda forced a laugh. Winning what? I set the glass down. The game. Silence. Heavy. Uncomfortable. Claire looked around the table. What game? No one answered. So I did. The one where Amanda and her friends pick a man and try to make him fall for them. Claire turned toward Daniel. Daniel suddenly found the table extremely interesting. Amanda stared at me. What are you doing? She whispered. I ignored her. Stage 1, I said calmly. Get his attention. Emily looked like she wanted to crawl under the table. Stage 2, make him flirt first. Sophie covered her mouth. Stage 3, late night texting. Daniel's face had gone pale. Stage 4, I continued. He asks to meet alone. Amanda stood up. Stop. I looked at her. Why? This is the part where the score gets interesting. Amanda, Claire said slowly, confusion turning into anger. Amanda's voice trembled slightly. It wasn't supposed to go this far. I nodded. Games usually don't. The silence in the room felt thick enough to cut. Daniel stood up suddenly. This is ridiculous, he said. Is it? I asked. I pulled a small folder from the counter. Because I have timestamps, messages, and about 3 weeks of observations that say otherwise. No one spoke. Amanda's eyes locked on the folder. What is that? She asked quietly. I slid the folder across the table. It's your prize. She opened it slowly. Her hand started shaking almost immediately. Divorce papers, she whispered. The room exploded with overlapping voices. You wanted a challenge, I said calmly. So I gave you one. Amanda looked up at me, stunned. You're divorcing me over a stupid game? I tilted my head slightly. No. I leaned forward. I'm divorcing you because my wife decided my marriage was a competition. Her eyes filled with tears. It never meant anything. I smiled faintly. That's the problem. Amanda looked down at the papers again. Daniel muttered something under his breath. Claire stood up so abruptly, her chair scraped across the floor. You told me she was just friendly, she said to him. Daniel had no response. Emily looked like she might faint. Amanda's voice cracked. We can fix this. I shook my head slowly. No. Please. You won the game. She stared at me. I shrugged. Congratulations. Then I picked up my coat. And like I said, I paused at the door and looked back at the table. The winner gets the prize. I nodded toward the papers. But unfortunately for you, my eyes met hers one last time. You also lost your husband. And then I walked out. 3 months later, things looked very different. The divorce moved quickly, much faster than Amanda expected. Turns out when a husband shows up with documentation, timelines, and a lawyer who enjoys efficiency, the process becomes surprisingly straightforward. Amanda tried to talk a few times during the first weeks. At first it was apologies, then explanations, then the classic line, "It didn't mean anything," which, ironically, kept meaning less and less every time she said it. Eventually the calls stopped. Emily and the rest of the game club disappeared from our lives almost overnight. Apparently it's harder to enjoy little social experiments once they start detonating real marriages. As for Daniel, things didn't go well for him either. Claire found out the full story the same night as everyone else. And unlike Amanda, she didn't try to debate the philosophy of flirting competitions. She filed for divorce 2 weeks later. From what I heard, Daniel spent the next month explaining to friends and relatives how it was just harmless fun. Apparently Claire wasn't a fan of that explanation. Amanda moved to an apartment across town. And the strange little game that once seemed so clever ended exactly the way games like that usually do. No winners, just consequences. As for me, life became surprisingly peaceful. No tension, no hidden messages lighting up someone's phone at night. Just quiet evenings, honest conversations, and the very comforting knowledge that my life was no longer part of someone else's entertainment. If you felt this story hit hard, drop a like, subscribe for more, and share your thoughts in the comments. Your support keeps Steelheart beating.